The federal government must stay out of our business. If the BCMEA gets their way, and their way is to let the government make this collective agreement for them, there will never be labor peace on the waterfront.
Workers have been without a contract since March. The union says the BCMEA has refused to negotiate on the main issues. For its part, the Employers Association says it's tried to be flexible. As David Akin explains, given the port's significance to the Canadian economy, pressure is mounting on the federal government to be more assertive in ending the strike.
Week in, week out, the Port of Vancouver plays a central role in Canada's and indeed the world's supply chains. It's where Canada's canola, grain, potash, and other exports head to Asian markets. And it's where consumer and manufacturing goods begin their journey to Canadian destinations. More than 13% of Canada's overseas trade, or $300 billion a year, is handled by Pacific ports. But for the second day in a row, the ports in BC are quiet, brought to a standstill by workers striking for better pay and job security in an era of automation.
So if there's a long disruption, then we can start to see supply chains getting blocked and production getting halted. And that could have a knock-on negative effect on the country's economic reputation.
Worried about that kind of long-term economic damage, the Canadian Chamber of Commerce on Sunday argued that Parliament should be recalled to pass back-to-work legislation. And other business groups agreed, believing the union timed the strike for maximum effect.
Try and back people into a corner instead of actually negotiating sooner. I think it deserves Parliament being recalled.
The federal government will have no choice but to introduce a back-to-work legislation if this continues for a few more days. It's impossible to have the BC ports being not fully operational for more than a few days.
The Trudeau Liberals did use back-to-work legislation to end a strike at the Port of Montreal in 2021. But for now, the government does not appear ready to intervene. Labour Minister Seamus O'Regan is in Vancouver and said Saturday, the best deals for both parties are reached at the table. The NDP opposition agrees.
Well, I think everyone's well aware of the stakes involved here when it comes to Canada's supply chain. And at the same time, these are the workers who got us through the pandemic and kept the supply chain running.
O'Regan, for his part, intends to stay in Vancouver until a deal is reached. David Akin, Global News, Ottawa.